Hey guys, welcome to the Shack. This is episode 31.
Correct.
I did good. Mikey, I'm glad to be here.
Yes, we are very excited to be here. This is a live, in-person episode with a studio audience for the first time. We are recording outside.
Yeah,
This is quite interesting
excited
for us. And we have not the usual band of characters with us.
No, all the guys are at the shop making knives. Mike dragged me all the way to Georgia where it's warm. Not really.
And wet.
It's supposed to snow later, they say.
Not all the way warm, but we are down here with a bunch of our friends at Georgia Bushcraft.
Yes, for Demo Days,
For
which is a
Demo
very
Day.
exciting event.
Yep. And we thought we would bring you a really cool podcast tonight. But first, Mike, where can they find the podcast?
Well, easy. Everywhere you can find podcasts.
So the internet then?
That's it. They can get them on the website all over the place, right?
Yes. Pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. Apple, Amazon, Pandora, you name it, we're on it.
So we have, I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast or not, but if you don't, let me bring you up to date. We have been number one, maybe once, somewhere. Where, was that Belize?
Portugal.
Portugal.
We're on the charts in Portugal, the Netherlands, and Belgium right now.
No way.
Oh, good job, guys.
Man, that means I'm almost nervous just hearing that.
Spain,
Huge,
coming
not
for you
huge.
next.
Super excited. So I always want to give a shout out to those guys that make us number one across the world. So thank you for being there. Today we're going to talk to all our friends here, but first let's get them introduced. I'm LT with LT Wright Knives.
Shane with ESEE Knives and Randall's Adventure and Training.
And you got JJ with Fuel the Fires.
You got Brandon Currin with BattlBox.
Casey Deming with Georgia Bushcraft.
Brian from Woods Monkey.
Heather Saulsbury, P&W Bushcraft.
And Todd Saulsbury from P&W Bushcraft.
And I'm Mikey, trying to drive this ship. And not
You're doing good, baby. We ain't hit nothing yet.
Hey, we got through the announcements and everybody
did.
said something
Yeah,
good.
we did a real good job.
Nobody slammed the table or anything. It's great.
So Mikey's idea, guys, is he wants to talk about unpopular. Wait, what was that again?
Unpopular opinions in bushcraft, because I know everybody here has one, and I know that a lot of the guests that we're gonna have one, and I just want to get them out there, and I want to have an open discussion about it. Hopefully, we can dispel some of those rumors and unpopular opinions.
Because there is a lot of stuff that gets done that maybe shouldn't get done.
Yes, and there are a lot of things that people have opinions on that
Yeah.
don't really matter, in my opinion. Like,
but it should be
you
fun.
can tell the difference between a 5/32 and an 1/8" knife when you're just using it. That's just me.
Wow.
Sounds
Sounds
man.
like we just got an email
Fire.
lately on that one.
Right
Wow.
on there. I don't care.
Bang, bang. There it is.
Pump the brakes.
But before we even dive into this, though, like I have a question for the panel here because I see most of y'all are in my age group or whatever. The term bushcraft itself, like before we even get started, I would say 10 years ago, that wasn't even, maybe 20 years ago, that wasn't even a thing,
Nope.
right? Like if you had asked me if I was a bushcrafter, I would have said,
What's that?
what is it? Right? Y'all agree with me on that or whatever? I would have associated that with something like down in Australia or something like that to begin with. So I guess my opening statement here is I think the term itself might be BS to begin with.
Well, that's
Like
a real
I feel like we
possibility.
have a need to like file all of us in these neat little folders.
Sure.
And I think the term bushcraft, which isn't that copyrighted now?
Yes, it is.
Or trademark to begin with? Do we have to give royalties to somebody for using this
We'll
term?
probably get sued, but
Maybe we have to pay Casey.
As long as
over
it
here
doesn't have
for
to do
it.
the coffee or honey, we're good to go.
Well, I know as a kid we used to call it camping.
Camping. You were an outdoorsman,
Yeah.
right?
And
You were a
then,
hunter, whatever.
I think my dad had a book laying around called Woodcraft.
Woodcraft, yeah.
the-
Camping
okay,
and woodcraft.
So that's kind of what I remember. I remember the first time I did hear the term bushcraft, I was making hunting knives, and I was a hunting knife maker at the time. And then someone said, "Can you make a bushcraft knife?" And I remember saying, "Sure." What is that?
Well, honestly, back in the
wasn't
day,
sure.
I was using y'all's knives that I was modifying into this new thing, bushcraft or whatever,
Right.
to try to make myself a bushcraft knife back then. So to me, I still think it's kind of a newer thing, but you're talking about unpopular opinions in modern day bushcraft as we use the term now.
And in the loose term, and for the idea of it being something that we all participate in, we may not agree on what the true definition of bushcraft is, but we all are in that realm
And we
right
understand
now. And we
each
get
other.
the concept. And the idea is that I know every one of us here has something that we just infuriates us. You know, you get the email, you get the comment on a video, and you're like, really, that's what you came away with that on this particular learning process.
So an example of that would be like, say, using the blade to actually scrape the ferro rod or something,
Yep.
rather than a spine, maybe.
Right. But again, not all knives have sharpened spines, so
Correct.
sometimes that's the only option. And yes, it is something that works, and it's something you should know that it does. But is it the best thing? Probably not.
I think this is going to be a blast. Yeah,
That is.
let's get going.
And you know what? There were some opinions when I first started working out bushcraft knives, I guess. And you do that, and I've had my opinions changed by some people that really can use a knife very, very
Right.
well. And I was like, hey, that's a really cool thing. And you adopt it yourself. So, man, this whole journey has been great because over the years I've been able to learn a lot of stuff, you know, coming into it. And then you just apply it to what you're doing and working with your guys and stuff. That's been a lot of fun.
Well, I think that's
No
important
doubt about
anyway, right? Having that forever student mentality and constantly
Oh, yeah.
learning and changing and,
Yeah,
and growing.
absolutely.
Okay.
So, what would you say constitutes a bushcraft knife, guys? I mean, straight up.
Whatever knife I have in my pocket when I'm
Amen.
doing bushcraft
There you
stuff.
go. Right on.
Answer.
Same goes for survival knife or fighting knife or
Firearms.
whatever I have with me.
Sharpened
That's what
rock.
We need somebody at the table that would be the exact opposite of that, right? Like a cowie. Like, no, a bushcraft knife has to be, what, 4 inches?
Yeah.
Or what are, y'all are knife
Yeah.
makers, so what is
The 4 to 5 inch, you know,
There is a
standing
sweet
ground.
spot.
a sweet spot there
Yeah.
for bushcraft knives?
Now remember that sweet spot's defined by the end user. In all fairness,
Right.
Because the majority of the people are wanting that
Profile.
size, and that could be based on old books they read too. You know, there's a lot of things that may turn them, or the guys that they're camping with. You know, his buddy's got an ESEE3. You know, that's the
crowd they
size
hang out with.
that all of a sudden is for him. That's the Holy Grail size. That's a Holy Grail knife, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way. I mean, a lot of the cool things that I have was because that's what my dad carried. I was a buck knife guy, man, early on. That's all I ever had.
Amen, me too. Yeah.
What my dad had, right?
Well, I mean, if back then though, I would have thought a bushcraft knife would have been something more along the lines of a larger knife.
Well, and
Maybe a
We've
kukri
seen
or
the
a
evolution.
parang, a machete of some
we've
sort.
seen the evolution of bushcraft knives in our journey.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, it started out with a 3/16 sharpened pry bar, one tool option thing, and now we've kind of turned full circle and we're back to smaller thin,
knives.
Yeah.
finish style Pucos, and
And now
you
is
see
that
a lot-
all they're using though? Is that their one tool option
You
or
see
answer?
a lot of that. You see a lot of that augmenting an axe or a saw. You see there's all kinds of realms where people are doing different things. There are still the people that want that one tool option, but there are other people that are realizing that bushcraft requires a tool kit, not just a knife or this or that. And I mean, it's just an evolution. I think as people's skills get better and as they've delved deeper into the history, you see a lot more of people either diving deeper into the European style bushcraft knives or into the long hunter style knives.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of the market has changed dramatically is people's education levels have gotten better.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with Mikey. When we were doing the 3/16 pry bar style bush knife, as 20 years ago, you know, as things are starting to progress and YouTube there's a lot of great knowledge on YouTube. And people going to classes and all this other stuff that you see out there, the knives have been getting smaller. They've been getting thinner. They've been getting back to cutting tools, you know, and not the pry bar mentality. And it's a great thing. I
Now, would
really
you
like it.
attest that
Skill
to
set.
trends, or would you attest that to an advancement in skill, education, et cetera, as people learn?
I got it. My thought, it's always the evolution of the guy that's doing the bushcraft himself. If you're starting off, it's whatever knife you have on hand. And then as you start learning your skills and getting better. Me personally, I'm a wood carver. I like small stuff. I like small knives, but that's what it just due to my evolution of working with a knife. That's what I ended up working with. And I just like the small use of the knife. Now, if I was somebody that was hacking through bushes all the time, and that was the first knife I got was maybe that, $10 machete, and I just worked off of that and grew up
You
learning
didn't
how
have
to
the
do
Rambo
that.
knife, man. Like,
Everybody had the Rambo knife. That was
I
first
broke
thing.
mine the first day.
Yeah. Broke the cutting tool, broke it in half.
I threw it at
Compass
a
never
tree.
got me home.
Yeah.
Matches never worked. But yeah,
The wire saw worked once.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean to me, when you first start getting into the outdoors as somebody that's working in the bushcraft, you start figuring out like what works best for you, and you start with that cheap knife, and then you start working on the quality knife, and then you start working on the knife that fits you the best. And I think it's an evolution for every person that works with a knife. And I think that's where you start ending up getting with the varieties. I don't think you'll ever get to one bushcraft knife that everybody keeps talking about. I think it's more belonging to the person that's using the knife.
Y'all still haven't created the perfect survival knife either, right? Like somebody's always got something to say about that, don't they?
Well, oddly enough, the evolution occurs for us too. I mean, as we've gotten better as knife makers, our designs have improved, and our grinds have improved, our finishes have improved, and you see that. The Genesis that we made when we started in 2013 is not the Genesis that you get today. It's 100% better than the knives that we were putting out.
So you definitely see a trend though where the knives are getting smaller and
yes
thinner.
and no. I think that people are starting to see a combination of not necessarily every knife needs to be that sweet stuff pot. There's a certain area where definitely people gravitate to, and that's always going to be that 4 to 5 inch knife. But there are things that are out there like our prom. Who'd ever thought that knife would be as wildly successful as it is? I mean, that started out as a one-hit wonder, and we just kept getting people wanting it more and more and more, and it's probably one of the smallest knives that we made.
So Mike, you said something that I want to kind of go back to is you said bushcraft doesn't require a knife, it requires kind of a toolkit or a kit. Here's one of my first shots across the bow is buying stuff is not the same. Gear acquisition you can buy. Skill acquisition you have to earn.
Correct.
And so what I see within the bushcraft community oftentimes is flat lays of pristine gear. And then the same people are speaking with authority
Preach it.
in a way where they have a very strong opinion on something, but their gear says that maybe that strong opinion is not based on time in the ground, like in the dirt.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're getting likes on Instagram because of the flat lay.
That's right.
It looks pretty.
Sure. But couldn't the argument also be made that
Exactly.
in a true bushcraft sense that you would have to actually make the knife?
I mean, you can, as far as I'm concerned, you can argue any point you want to in bushcraft, and there's always going to be a counter
Somebody
to that.
to counter it.
So what I can tell you that we see in our advanced bushcraft class is I can almost always pick out a new student because they show up with a very large, like they'll show up with a brand new 5 or a ESEE 5 or ESEE 6. And you start looking around, all the instructors and all the experienced students are almost all using neck knives, smaller, thinner knives. And what we see is people come to us through these large knives, and then with experience, they quickly learn the limitations of these sharpened pry bars and the other stuff that looks cool and looks good for the gram. They start to realize that there are limitations to a 1/4 inch thick, sharpened pry bar. It doesn't cut great. It doesn't, and it takes some real skill. Now, there are absolutely people out there that can use it with great skill, but they've done their dirt time. They've done their due diligence to develop that skill. And what we generally see is our advanced bushcraft class gets repeat students, and those knives normally get smaller and thinner as
they
their
progress.
skills increase.
Yeah, I
And
totally agree with
so
that.
that's something that we see oftentimes.
Go to.
And here comes a freebie too, is that I believe personally that a big portion of our market is solely based on marketing hype.
Amen.
And it's not always driven by the knife companies. I don't know who came up, like, we just make knives. We don't, we make, somebody say hard use or this, that, or the other, but we don't make a bushcraft knife. We make some knives that are better for that application. But also, I've seen guys do great bushcraft stuff with big knives. And then if you go to the Amazon and you listen to Jeff Randall and Mike Perrin, rest in peace, those guys talk about what the indigenous people down there in the jungle can do with a Tramontina $2 machete.
Right.
Pales in comparison, but they don't know bushcraft. That's just life for them.
This is their life. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean those
Jump in
guys.
here.
Those guys are making blades out of leaf springs of old vehicles,
Mercedes
that they're
or
going-
whatever.
I mean,
Trucks.
it's their lifestyle. It's what they.
they don't have a bushcraft knife. They have a machete, and they
Yeah.
do
Or
everything
a
with
mat
that machete, whether
rock.
it's chopping firewood or cleaning a chicken. And if the machete breaks, guess what happens? It's
It
a
makes a
shorter
smaller
machete,
machete.
and the now portion that broke
Modified.
is now a smaller knife that they may use somewhere else.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself and give us your opinion.
So my name's Adam Fry. I own Mountain King Survival. Years ago on this talk, I came up with the kit of steel, and it was my determination that the kit of steel is basically it's the type of steel that's in your kit that determines the longevity of your kits. So I think the one tool option is junk, and it's very dangerous because if you lose one tool, then you're done. You're completely done. I also formulated the opinion that your knife can be too large, your axe can be too small, your saw can be too small, and if you have one auger, it's not enough because not every tool or not every job takes the same auger size. So, and that's why that's why I sell my own auger tools that I've created. So, but ultimately, yes, it's the style of kit, style of steel in your kit that determines longevity of your kit. So, but and to your point too, like this is my friend made this as a Rudy Dean Skinner, and I took this to Alaska. I was on a Discovery Channel show called 100 Days Wild, and so not only did we skin moose and salmon and grouse and red squirrel, but I also carved everything that I carved up there with this knife. So, and it's not like I said, I truly believe.
And just remember, we have listeners that don't get to see it. So can you describe the knife a little bit just so they know what you're holding?
So ultimately, it's probably got a 4-inch handle. It's full tang knife.
It's thin.
It is thin.
Very thin.
It's high carbon steel. It's got grooves in the top in the front and the back. So for control of the blade when you get into skin
And
and
who was
tight.
the maker again?
Rudy Dean.
Okay.
Rudy Dean. He makes all the fighting tomahawks for the Navy SEALs out of Virginia. So, but regardless, this is the knife that I took to
This
Alaska.
is G10, micarta. What do you got on the
A2,
handle
I
scales there?
It looks like G10
it-
scales, maybe.
Yeah, on your scales.
I'm over here thinking it's a knife.
Yeah.
It's a little dark
It's shiny.
in the studio.
It stabs stuff.
Looks like it. Looks like G10.
Well, he did want opinions.
So I'm also of the opinion, like, if you can have the appropriate tool to do the job, have the appropriate tool. I'm not a massive fan of like showing off my knife by batoning through wood because I think it's a dangerous thing because your edge in the forest is precious, and your knife in the forest is precious. And if you can take the hatchet and the knife, do that. So that's just my opinion.
Like I said, I think there's definitely something to having the right tool for the job.
Absolutely.
But obviously, everything that we carry is a compromise to begin with.
You don't see many mechanics working on your whole car with a crescent wrench.
Right. Amen.
Right? I mean, it's absolutely illegal to work on a Black Hawk helicopter with an adjustable wrench.
Yeah.
You'll get in trouble. I don't read for that. So, I mean,
Ask me how I know.
yeah. Well, I heard a guy say. So,
Well, thank you very much.
my pleasure.
Casey, I know you've got some opinions on this.
Oh boy. Well, I missed part of the conversation because old Taylor Martin of Best Aim EDC is currently trapped in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, and Joe Flowers is on the way to hopefully find them and save them.
Yay.
But
Taylor does not have
because
good
he's
luck.
on his
Speaking of Joe
Coming
Flowers
in that
should be
little
here
truck.
in this
Is he really
discussion.
driving that little truck?
he was until that sweet little tiny Subaru Japanese truck of his overheated or thermostat. I don't know.
Okay.
So it's being towed back home, and he is without a truck in the middle of nowhere. So I was facilitating that.
So the adventure has
Pickup,
begun
yep.
for him.
Yep, and this
And
is
what kind
fresh
of
here
knife
too.
are they carrying?
Well, that's a really good question. Hopefully something sharp that'll stab somebody in the middle of the night there.
Toolbox be part of his best damn EDC now.
I'm sure
Probably.
he's got something.
I love that guy and his questionable choices of vehicles. But no, as far as like bushcraft goes, and I mean, I don't know.
You see a lot of people come through all your classes, so
we've had a few
you've seen
folks.
some trends.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think a lot of what a beginner bushcrafter kind of runs into with being a bit of drama or issue, is gear over knowledge. That's one big thing. It's like everybody buys the right gear or what they think is the right gear, but they don't know how to use it, And to me, bushcraft has a lot to do with a skill set. Morris Kuchansky had said, it's not what you it's not as much about what you carry, you know what I mean? Knowledge weighs nothing.
Right.
So gear isn't the full picture, isn't the biggest part, but it definitely does play a part, But knowing how to do it and how to use the gear is big. So I think, starting with the right stuff is a foundational gear item, maybe is fine, but knowing why you have a fixed blade knife or certain types of steel or whatever your tool of choice may be, in that situation, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Without cutting our nose off to spite our face, because we all sell stuff within that community. Like I think the bushcraft community, whatever that is or means, is a good part of our customer base. But I think we've kind of turned the original notion of what we would consider wood lore, camp lore, bushcraft, and turned it inside out. I think Morris says the more you know, the less you carry. I think it's him. Mm-hmm. And what we see now, and to me, that embodies doing more with less, challenging yourself by taking fewer tools, fewer equipment, having the ability to adapt and overcome, and use your creative mind and your skill to work around or work with nature. And what our current state of bushcraft is we want to do less with more. Like we want to have more stuff, but we know less about it. We want to have more stuff, but we know how to use it less. We don't know how to maximize our potential with what we have in our hand, but we've got options, but we're not fully utilizing, even one or two of the tools that we have in this kit. And so I love to see people challenge themselves, and I encourage people, personally, for me personally, I like small knives. Well, I'm probably going to take a big knife to my next class just because I don't really like big knives. I think there's limitations, and so I'm going to
force yourself to
eat
use
my
Like it's
words,
personally
and I'm
working
going
on
to work
yourself.
on my skill set, with a big knife, where I know I much prefer using a smaller blade that's thinner, that has better cutting geometry, and there's going to be 19 knuckleheads in a class with big knives, so if I need a big knife, I'll bum one of theirs and I don't have to tote it around, But I do think that that's something where we kind of jumped the shark on that notion of doing more with less, and we're doing less with more.
You may be able to back this up because y'all teach classes just like we do. I also find too that there is the insurance policy thing like Casey was talking about, where people, I think maybe what I'm getting at is I think that the majority of the people sitting here today, we all take a lot of our experience and our skills for granted. Maybe we grew up in the woods doing this. And I have a lot of people come up to me and say, well, I just now have been made aware of I need to train. And so, they come to the school loaded up with whatever, gear they thought had the best reviews, or they talked to a buddy, or they had a subscription box or whatever, and they just don't know what they need to bring with them. And like you said, through the journey, they learn and they start adjusting, because all of us have gone through evolutions in our own gear.
Yeah.
Like, God, I've never come up with a perfect kit. I don't think any of y'all have either. At this
it's
point,
ever changing.
it's always changing.
But they've got to be willing to put themselves in uncomfortable situations,
Positions.
and to, more importantly, to test their knowledge, test their skill, and be willing to walk into a place of ignorance with an open mind and saying, I'm going to challenge myself here, and I'm going to do something I'm uncomfortable with.
Well,
And
that's where I feel people learn the best. I mean, I spent 25 years working on chiller machinery. Some of my best lessons was when I let the smoke out of something that's not supposed to smoke.
Oh, the holy smoke has left the building.
Yeah. So, nothing's wrong with failure. It's you learn from it.
But I think we've got to be willing to do
call
that.
it failure, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you got to have
it's
those
a
folks
learning-
willing to do it.
Yeah, it's a learning thing, and when you're uncomfortable, and when there's a purpose behind doing something, you're going to figure it out more than likely. At some point, you might break your knife.
One way or the other.
Well, I think you hit on it earlier, though. Like us using the exact same, we could have a kukri, we could have an Opinel in our pocket, but we understand the limitations of the tool that we're using for
Right.
whatever the
Right.
thing is that we're doing.
Right.
Whereas somebody doesn't have that experience. Maybe they have the theoretical knowledge, but they haven't turned it into practical knowledge yet because they haven't broke stuff. They haven't tested themselves and gone to those limits.
And let's face it, some people don't learn from things like that. And I know people that every time they get on a tractor, they screw something up on it, and they say the tractor's a piece of crap and it's not working right. No, you're a horrible operator. Like
You
you're
need to
trying
take
to
up
do
sewing.
XYZ with something that's designed to do ABC.
It's called mechanical sympathy.
Yeah.
Know your machine.
Yep.
But
All right,
do you,
guys, we have another
go
guest
ahead,
here.
go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Jonathan Burton. I'm the Bearded Burton on social platforms. And this is going to piggyback off what you guys were talking about. I've learned through teaching and in being a part of classes and learning from people that they know way more than I do. Connecting to that skill and connecting to the area that you're trying to learn in is far more important than all the gear that money could buy. I have realized that the stuff that I started using and working with in the beginning, like around a decade ago, I still love it and I still like it. I love knives. There's certain ones that come out and I have the impulse and I want to buy it and I want to use it. But I know ultimately if I'm not putting a skill to the gear that I have, it's got to be put in the closet. And a lot of that comes from the memories that you make with the stuff that you're bringing. And I think a lot of that revolves around something that we've lost with the bushcraft and outdoor community, and that's community. I feel like this event and going to an ESEE class or taking a class with you or whatever, in the beginning we're wanting to learn that skill and we're wanting to increase our knowledge of what we're wanting to profit from. But in the end of it, we're remembering like the times that sucked, that we were wet and cold.
Oh, God,
and
yeah.
we're remembering when Shane challenged me to leave the big knife and try to use a stone, like whatever it might be. And so I feel like we've kind of created a paradox of like connecting to nature or connecting to the class that we're with or the community that we're with or the school that we want to learn from, and then trying to like push gear and stuff on people. And
Well, that's the society or that we
yeah,
live
it's
in now.
the microwave
Consumerism,
doesn't
yeah.
work fast enough. We're impatient, like we need it. But I mean, I got back from just spending 10 days in the Sonoran Desert at winter count, and I walked around with a little cloth and a water filter bandolier style and a little neck knife and running around with Dave Holliday. And dude, it rejuvenated everything in me. Like, we can get to a point that we do this over and over and over again, and we all have this passion that fuels us. That's the gas we're putting in the tank every day. But eventually, it's real hard to run on passion alone. And you gotta reconnect to why you did this. And I feel like a lot of the people that did this before us with no technology and a lot less gear and stuff that broke all the time, like they were connected to the land that they were on. They were connected to the people that they were with. They knew, man, this guy, he's really good at making pots. This dude can kill animals with bows like nobody's business. And you feed and support those people in your community. And it just, I see that consumerism and greed and just corruptive stuff have just caused such division among us.
that we're no longer able to feed like, dude, you're really good at hunting. You're really good at teaching.
Making pots.
Yeah, whatever it is, man. Yeah, like, you know, and it's not that we need to just focus on one skill or one thing, but I love this idea of the co-op because we're putting names to faces, but we're also like, we're building these memories that like next year when we're gearing up for co-op, man, last year, remember whenever we had fun around the fire, you did this and we tried.
Yeah, the connectivity.
Like, yeah, man, like that's something I think, and obviously that's not popular because we can't sell, like companies can't sell that. But we as
you can bring it to them as they come to the class. And
we as instructors, we as people that are involved in this community that care about it and love it, like that's something that I can make it a point in my head before the class even starts that I'm going to try to personally connect to each person in my class, because that's going to be way more important to them than any knife or any, you know, like seeing someone get a hand drill fire for the first time. That's a primal thing in them.
Oh God, yeah, a spiritual journey.
That's a primal thing in them that ignites them that they didn't think they could do. And now they've built that connection with, man, I was tired and hungry and I got that. And yes, they're going to remember that they got the hand drill, but they're going to also remember where they were, who was with them, what it took to get there. And so it's not necessarily a hot take, but maybe my emphasis is like us focusing more on community and connecting to,
like Maya Angelou that said, you may not remember what people say, but you remember the feeling that you had when you were with that person. You're speaking to this.
It's
community.
A powerful thing. I mean, that mental survival, like that we feed, like us being able to overcome things and banding together and putting, you know, our egos aside. That's a really powerful thing that can get us through things that, you know, a really good knife, who cares? Like, I mean,
well, I can tell you too, the people
do
here,
stuff with rocks
that come to Georgia Bushcraft or any of our events in general, they all speak to our connection.
Absolutely,
they see it 100%, and it blows their minds, and they want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So what I was actually going to go off on that, guys, is I think some of it is skill set, but I also think some of what we're representing is we're presenting an idea, and some people are never going to be able to accomplish getting outdoors, but by buying gear or watching people they like, they dream about it.
Yeah.
I want to say that probably maybe 30% of our customers don't ever even use the gear, but they want to be able to think one day they could. So they're buying an idea, they're not buying a product. And I think that's, I think that's a lot different with a lot of things, but at least in the outdoor community, I think people are buying memories of what they used to do, or they want to create memories. They're hoping to be able to do that because
it's an emotional purchase.
It's an emotional purchase, but even the bushcraft itself, I think, is an emotional thing. It's that people want to get outdoors. They want to be the explorer. They want to be the adventurer, whether they have the skills or the right products to do it. The idea behind bushcraft is that people are getting outdoors. Some people never get outdoors. Some people are in their apartment with a closet full of really cool gear that never gets dirty. We know they're out there.
Well, I mean,
Not just that. But they watch people like us too, like that follow our channels, and they live vicariously through what we do.
Absolutely, they live vicariously through it, which is really important.
Like, I mean, clearly, I sell gear. I'm a gear guy, right? With BattlBox, we have thousands of subscribers that get gear every single month. Cool gear that's useful.
Right.
I don't know how many of these people are actually getting out and really using the stuff, but my purpose is I want to encourage them to go outdoors and do this stuff, right?
You're the gateway
Like this
drug.
is the gateway
Yeah,
drug.
both of y'all,
there.
both of y'all are creating a community.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
creating
And
it's
that's
something
what
that
that's
people
what it is,
want to
but
be a
it's-
part of.
Yeah.
It goes both ways, right? Like, example, okay, I went to Colorado this past summer and spent some time with Donnie Dust. I'm sure some of y'all know who he is.
Oh yeah, I know
Yep.
Donnie.
I mean, the dude, you give him a couple rocks and a loincloth, he's good to go, right? Okay, I fully respect that. Okay, I'm not that guy.
Me neither.
But he fully respects me as well as a gear guy. So it goes both ways, right? I'm not going to look down upon somebody because they don't have the gear I think they need. I'm not going to look down at somebody that's got more gear than I think they should have. if they're outdoors and they're trying and they're putting forth the effort and they're learning, and then they realize, hey, I don't need to tote 27 knives in my pack. I don't need to tote a freaking full felling axe every time I go out into the woods. That's okay, because it's a learning process. I was there. Okay?
I think what you're saying too speaks to what Jonathan was saying, because you took the time to get on somebody else's level and you're not judging them, right?
No, I'm fascinated.
You're seeing
by
what they're doing,
Like,
and you're willing to help because they have a good attitude.
Being open
That's
to
an
it.
was the same way for
unpopular
me
bushcraft
as
opinion.
being the gear guy. But he was the same way. He was the same way to me
With you.
as being the gear
Y'all
guy.
had a
right?
mutual
we
respect.
We went out into the woods in Colorado, out in the middle of no freaking where. It was freaking awesome. God, the place is gorgeous. And he literally had a buckskin pack that he made himself. He had a couple blades that he napped himself, and a handkerchief. And I had a backpack. I had my neck knife that I always carry with me. I had a fixed blade with me. I got a pocket knife. I mean, I had a good amount of gear. And not once did he look down upon me as not being a bushcrafter because I had a lot of gear.
Right.
And nor did I look down upon him because he didn't have a lot of
the
gear.
gear.
He has skill sets that I would love to learn and try. And he taught me things and he showed me things. And I showed him things that he didn't know. Like I had a tarp. We were going to put up a shelter. It started raining. I said, hey, man, I got a tarp. I got some paracord.
5 minutes, we're done,
We're
baby.
going to throw up a ridge line through it. And he was literally like, dude, I didn't realize that this is that nice. Like I'd be out here looking for a freaking cave to get in right now, you know?
Right.
So the thing is there's no, in my opinion, in anything outdoors, I don't care if it's hunting, fishing, I don't care if you're the guy with the daggum $98,000 bass boat or the kid with the freaking, you know, little John boat that you got at freaking Bass Pro Shops. If you're out there fishing, I'm cool with you. It's all good. And that's the thing, like in anything, man, there's no need to be pointing the fingers and this, that. Okay, yeah, you may have a bunch of gear. It's like the kid that shows up to work, you know, when I was a mechanic and he comes in with all the brand new shiny tools. He ain't even turned a freaking wrench, right? And then you got like the journeyman over there going, oh, there's a greenhorn, blah, blah. Come on, man. Like, there's no room for some of that.
I think that speaks to your maturity, too.
That's not building
You know what I
community.
mean?
That's
No,
not building
building
community.
community.
It's
Not
not.
building community.
And that's the only thing that's gonna keep, you know, keep us doing this. Like that's the reason
Yeah.
why we do it. Like
So-
I've never met you, but I'm excited to hang out with you. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to hang out with all of you because we're here to hang out and be a part of a community and like, you know, learn from each other, bump heads and whatever it might be. Like it's so important. I think it's something that's just overlooked. I mean, there's people that I've known in the Pout House for a long time that they love every collectible knife that there is, and they love seeing knives that are used and abused and rusted and patinaed and whatever. And they may never do that with their knife, but they're a part of this community because they jumped on a forum and they interact with people that are across the world from them. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that's easily lost, in my opinion.
I mean, there's enough crap in the world
To divide us.
like you know, you go to any comment section on any post on any topic whatsoever. I don't care what it is. There's going to be plenty of negativity and pointing fingers and calling names and saying, "Well, you're not as good as me," or "I know more than you," or "I got better gear than you," or "You should do it this way. You should do it that way." And there's no place for that in the woods.
One of the
Yeah.
things I've found, this as an observation, and this is especially, it held true before social media, but it really, I think, is even more so now, is that I'm very fortunate to be around some people that are way smarter than me. They're very deeply skilled and are lifelong learners. The best instructors I know are students first.
Forever student mentality.
So, but the one thing I notice is that if I ask one of these guys a question, it's almost never a clear-cut answer because they live in the gray. And the reason they live in the gray is because they've had enough experience to know that there are very few absolutes in this stuff. And the ones that often speak with the most authority and the most absolutes, that are the most emphatic and have the strongest opinions, are the ones with the least experience, and they don't have the knowledge base
I agree with that.
to back it up. And you take a guy like Craig or James Gibson or Patrick Rollins, these guys that I'm fortunate enough to be around, who have a deep understanding and a deep experience base. And you ask them a question, and they always rub their chin first, and they think about it, because they've experienced that situation, and the outcome has probably been different on a good portion of those, whereas the one guy that talks about it with the most authority and the most assertiveness on social media is a guy that's been in that situation exactly one time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not throwing shade, and the purpose of this whole thing is not to throw shade, but it is a chin check that we all have to take, I think, and we all have to look at ourselves and look at our community and say, hey, there's people we should be listening to and turning the volume up. And then let's face it, there's a lot of people that we just need to hit the mute button on too.
Dude, you're spitting truth right there, because I know myself.
Trying to be nice.
I've taught. Me and Patrick have taught at a lot of mutual events together, like the DuPont Rescue Experience, right? So me and him have teamed up and taught together. And you're right, he's a humble guy. And I understand exactly what you're saying, as far as like we always worked really well together when we were teaching together. But you're right about that, because me and him, that's something that we talk about as instructors. When you got the guy that's got 50,000 certifications, he takes 30 minutes at the beginning of the class to tell you how certified he is. And then he speaks over the students' heads without connecting with his audience whatsoever. It's story time, right? Exactly. So what you're saying, I think you win the podcast just for that.
Were we competing? I've got so much more to say.
Wait a minute, JJ.
Back up.
Darn, no. He is over there on his notepad.
One of
Craig's
the
on
words
mic
I
now.
hate most in anything is, especially if they speak it of themselves, is the expert.
Yeah.
I mean, and
There
that's
are no
really
experts out
anything,
here,
man. Because I'll be honest with you, I can sit back. I mean, I was a journeyman mechanic. I know how to fix chillers pretty dang well. But I promise you this: I've scratched my head a lot, even as a journeyman mechanic. Right? There's two, tradesmen and others below that level, if you want to even call it that, think that you should know it all, and you do know it all. They look up to you or whatever.
Right.
Just means you've been doing it. You've been doing it
Cannot
longer.
stand that.
I've just been screwing up longer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically what it is. I mean,
Stand on a mountain of mistakes.
yeah. I mean, that's how
I can see a
that's
lot
how you
clearer.
learn. I mean,
Yeah.
I never was good at book learning in school and stuff like that. I was a hands-on guy. Like, let me do it. Let me figure out how this works. Let me take it apart. I won't never forget the time my dad somehow we came across a old school typewriter, like a real mechanical old school typewriter. I took that thing apart, dude. You want to talk about a bunch of parts?
Right.
He came in to the garage, and I had the whole garage covered in little parts from a freaking typewriter. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just going to take it apart and see how it works." And he's like, "You're never going to put that back together." Challenge accepted.
I'm in, son.
And it took me forever, but I put it back
still
together.
did it, though, right?
I mean, I did it, and I learned a lot through doing that. And it's the same way with bushcraft.
There's
or
probably a
anything in the outdoors.
7-minute video on YouTube on how to put that typewriter.
But I say that in cases if you're interested in getting in bushcraft,
Sign up for my box.
buy the gear, go out and do it. You know what I mean? And then figure out what you need to be good at. Go to classes. Watch.
Maybe that's what we
it.
need to do right now is we need to tell that guy or girl who's listening right now, because they're looking for our advice, right? Like we always say, train, right? But they go to our websites, they sign up for a class. We have recommendations, obviously, on our website for what you should bring to the class, but maybe that's what they need to hear. Maybe they need to come see one of us in a class so that we can help them.
Yeah.
I would go even one further and say, if you think you're an expert or you think you're skilled, then prove it. And I don't mean prove it to me or prove it to you. I mean, go prove it to yourself.
Right.
No one knows you better than you. So if you're like,
But I can't feel good about myself unless you tell me that I'm good,
kind of
bro.
the whole point. Yeah. And
Good job, JJ. Good job.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm clearly no expert, dude. I'm glad to be here because
Are there any experts here? I need to know.
I want to learn. I like to learn. I like to learn. I like to, can I do this? And that's the thing is go out. Let's say you are watching, one of us on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, or any of the social media things, and we're doing something. Go out and do it and try it. And
to emulate what you're seeing or you're living
not that
vicariously
we
through.
necessarily are the expert in doing whatever task that may be, but go out and see how you can skin that cat. You know what I mean? Go out and figure
Not
out,
literally.
do you have the right
Unless,
Well, it depends on which country you're in.
Oh, okay. I was
Be
just
sure
thinking
it's your
domestic
favorite
cat.
cat.
I was like, I don't know if you should give that advice.
Well, I mean, don't skin your cat.
I'm
maybe your
curious to
neighbor's
hear
cat, but-
Craig and Brian's hot take on this.
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh,
You've been here.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, listening to everybody talk about it, it's interesting to hear. You mentioned respect, and you just talked about people getting an opinion about what they should bring and whatever. And I think people need to remember that it's okay. Like if you're newer to it, it's okay to not go out and try something, and it's okay if you fail at it. And it's okay if you're looking at the gear list and you don't have all the pieces of gear on that list. It's okay. Like you don't need all that stuff.
Nope.
You need to get out and do what you think you can do, but it's okay. And don't listen to the people who are saying like, you didn't do this right, or you should have done this, or you have to start a fire this way. That's crap. I mean, does that cover the swearing? But it's crap. I mean, don't listen to those people. It's okay.
Well, you're not doing it for them. Like that's the
Right.
whole point
Yeah.
too. Is like we got to get past this. I'm not going to do it for the gram. I'm doing it for me because I want to be better.
Yep.
And I actually think you're better when you use and begin and start out with inferior tools to begin with, because you learn. We talk about mechanical sympathy, or we talk about knowing your tool and the limitations of your tool. So if I do have one knife, I'm not going to take it out there and do pry with it. Not that that's an issue, but.
I think you have a warranty bin that says otherwise.
Yeah. I do, and I brought some, by the way, a whole box full of bonehead moves for your viewing pleasure. But I think when you begin that journey it's not the tools that mark the beginning of the journey. It's just like I don't care if you use grandma's old hickory knife. Go out. You'd be surprised how much you can do with just a good old hickory knife.
So we have tons of them in various shapes from
Oh yeah.
I think with the gear, what we're
skinning
trying to look
hogs and
for
deer.
is, maybe they're getting the gear, but at least we're initiating the spark for them to get out and try.
That's my goal.
I mean, you don't want that one person to go out there and tell them, like, hey, you only have to be one knife, and go out there and start with one knife.
I think for them,
I don't want them to ruin their first experience going out and thinking, this is going to be the worst thing ever I've ever done in my entire life.
They're really getting the dopamine hit from the purchase.
Right.
Right. What fuels my fire is when I see somebody empowered.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
When
think
they
Craig
get
is
it.
an excellent example of this. Tell them a little bit about the Chamonix and how you present that as a complete package, because I don't think a lot of people really know this.
Okay, so I'm Craig.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Craig Cottle, the director of Nature Line School out of Central Kentucky. I'm also the designer of the Chamonix built by LT Wright knives. And what do you want me to cover, Mikey?
Just talk about your complete package.
What do you want me to say?
So you not only sell the knife, but you provide all the videos and support.
Oh, okay,
of
yeah,
the-
sure. So
The money comes later.
one of the things, one of the things that I saw when I never thought that. Well, I didn't know would people like my design, and so I didn't know. I'd hoped to sell 25, and now we sold hundreds, and we're probably going to be selling hundreds more. So very pleased by that. But one of the things that I wanted to offer, because I felt like people that are buying the knife that I designed and you guys built, is support of me, and so I want to support them. And so I created a series of videos that are made only for those people that buy that knife. It doesn't go out to anybody else. They're not public on YouTube. They're on my website now. And so I'm going to now add to that every month a video using my knife to do something that supports that community of people in an effort to do exactly what you all been talking about, which is just building community and helping people grow. And that's, I think, what you're looking at, Mikey. Is that what you were asking me about?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
And it's actually brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It is very much so.
No,
You
it's
win.
no, that's
Shane,
You're in the lead.
Oh, okay, you're
not
in the
over
lead.
yet.
while I was sitting here listening, something came to mind, and I hope this makes sense. But I have a question for the panel and those that are listening. What's the best birthday cake?
The one we
Todd's
just had for Todd. is
Just
pretty
like
good
a knife, whatever one I have in hand.
And I think that's the point of what we could sit and talk about bushcraft and what it is and what it looks like and what it feels like for days.
Hours and hours.
Days. I mean,
yeah.
we could do this for the rest of our lives. And I think what it comes down to is a few things. Is that our premise, the way we teach classes, is based on a puzzle piece: mindset, skills, tactics, and gear. A puzzle of those four pieces those are the pieces of the puzzle. That's what makes up self-reliance, survival, bushcraft, whatever it might be. Add on top of that, you've got to add in geography, skill level, experience, and
scenario, the
all the
situation
different
itself.
situations you find yourself in. And if, for example, if I want to throw the unpopular opinion out there,
Please do.
so because this comes up in this discussion, is bow drill fire making was not done throughout the country of the United States of America by Native American people, indigenous peoples. Most people back then did hand drills. And so when you're teaching bow drill fire all over the country and you're having students do that, you're teaching them something that was never done. And my opinion, which goes back to the knife, is why should I redesign something that was used for, at
2,500 years.
times the knife that I designed was built on the long knives premise. Those guys would walk out in the woods for 13 months, 14 months, 2 years, and not come back. Why should I do something different from them? Those guys are better than me. Okay? Same thing is true here. If you've got people that built fires out of the earth for 10,000 years and they did it with hand drill, why are you going to do bow drill in that part of the world?
Because I got my YouTube patch.
Exactly. It is a cool skill. Okay? But quite frankly, it's just not. I mean, we've got to understand that certain geographical regions are not open and beneficial to do some of these skills that you see on the gram. You've got to really understand your environment. That's why our school is called Nature Reliant School, because we have to rely upon nature.
Bro, I don't know, man.
The light bulb.
Boo, everybody goes crazy.
Every time I've ever done a bow drill fire, a hand drill, some kind of friction fire, whether it's a fire saw, a pump drill, whatever, I've always had a lighter and a ferro rod in my pocket.
I promise you.
Yeah,
Right?
like that one.
If you've gotten to that point, things are
we,
bad.
we teach primitive fire so that you'll carry a lighter. And if the lighter's bad, you're going to use your backup lighter. If the lighter's bad, you're going to use your backup to your backup.
Right.
So I think it's cool. It's a good experience to have. Is it something I'm using in a survival situation? Good God, I hope
Good
not.
God, no.
And then so much of what we do or what we see is carefully curated and crafted. We don't, and this is one thing. Hey, here's a hot take.
Let it out, baby.
Here's a hot take. I'm on fire. How many people within the community of any community, whether it be firearms, bushcraft, survival, you name it, how often do they show their failures?
I do every time I can think of it. It helps. It actually, with a student, when you
learn
show
way
them
more
you're
from your
human.
failures than you do from your successes.
But
Amen.
But they
for
don't
the
show
most
it.
part,
They don't
for the
show
most
it.
part, no one talks about the failure. No one talks about. So Heather screwed up a bunch of pieces that are going to be a limited run here pretty shortly.
Were you pointing at me? I was going to own all my failures. I share them online all the time.
But if we wanted to really be real, then we would see more people show the screw ups, show the failures, because that is where the learning takes place.
I ran into this.
I think it makes you more human as an instructor as well. It helps you connect with your audience. Some of my failures actually make the best stories when I'm trying to make a point when I'm
100%.
instructing. 100%.
I ran into this a lot writing the books, because every one of my books, at the beginning of every chapter, there's a story. And then that chapter deals with whatever happened in that story. And so my marketing team from my publisher was like, Craig, you keep writing about stories where you screwed things up a lot. I don't think you need to be doing that. I'm like, I mean, it was such a foreign concept to me that people don't learn from their screw ups. But from a marketing perspective, which is quite frankly social media, from a publishing perspective, that's what they wanted me to do. Just show that you're an expert.
Yep.
Right? Show that you're an expert. You don't make mistakes.
The internet's full of them.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a foreign concept to me. I can't even grasp
But
the
you're
concept.
showing people how you became an expert. And you are an expert in your field. But you're showing people the honest truth about how
It has
you
to
got
be.
there.
There's also an aspect of humility.
There's also an aspect
With
of
that.
authenticity online. And don't you
Authenticity.
think that the people who follow you because they know that you're sharing your failures along with your successes? I mean, people follow
Because you have that blue check mark.
Oh, that's it. I don't have the blue check mark,
verified,
but I'm just
baby.
saying I get more comments from
They won't
people
give me
on
one.
being a
Yeah.
real person. It's like, well, who else would I be? But in comparison to these people that are online trying to
Well,
say
I-
they're the experts, or
Didn't you all
I
say
think that's
something about flat
changing,
lays
though.
earlier?
yeah.
About what?
Flat lays. I mean, I keep really, and also, forgive me, I'm getting there now, Scott. I'm getting there now, Shane. I'm getting hot.
Warm it up.
EDC. How many freaking EDC piles do you have, bro? I mean, come on.
I love the use of bra.
I mean, come on. That and flat lays, these are the perfect representations of things. And Shane and I were discussing this earlier about boots, belt, and watch.
Boots, belts, watch.
I'm always looking at knives, I'm always looking at boots, and I'm always shaking hands and feeling hands when I meet people. If that hand is not calloused, you're not telling me about a bow drill fire.
Everybody's checking their hands.
Yeah, I know.
You're
I was
not.
like, that's
You're
a
just
great
not
idea.
going to tell me about.
Like a
You're not
baby.
going to tell me anything about bushcraft if I shake your hand and it's not calloused. You're just not going to do it. And if your boots are pretty,
applied my moisturizer, man. Like,
if a guy walks into a group like this and he's got pretty boots on, he's probably going to say something about it because he feels awkward.
Wait, I'm supposed to be wearing boots?
Because it's like a black belt in martial arts. I mean, my boots and my knife better be dirty. It because it shows that I'm out
I
there
don't
doing
think
stuff
any of
with it.
us would show up with something new, man. We would feel.
Well, we're going to talk. We're going to talk
Heather
about
gave
it,
it to us.
right?
So,
I gotta run in the dirt
the
first.
conversation that Craig was referencing is I have a buddy that has been in some alphabet soup unit, and one of the ways he gauged the people he was boots, belt, and watch. That was his first pass, and that has stuck with me for a long time. And with our experience, we went on, I don't know, we have a ratsar.org is our search and rescue team nonprofit. That's kind of how we've chosen to give back to our community. We serve all over the Southeast doing missing person searches. I can't tell you how many times we've responded to areas and we've had emergent volunteers that are locals. And we know our team is kind of known to be pretty technically proficient, and we're known that we don't complain and we'll just get after it and get it done. We don't often take people that we haven't vetted with us for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes we're doing technical rope work or other stuff, and there's sometimes where we just don't want to bring people that aren't vetted into the field. But I can tell you on a few different occasions, one occasion specifically, I made a first pass boot, belts, and watch on this guy. And then I went on to the chain smoking, the Pepsi, and the Mountain Dew bottle in his back pocket. And I thought, we're going to have to haul this guy out. He's going to get out there in the woods on us, and he's going to stroke out. That dude walked my butt off.
But don't you know nicotine and caffeine are a woodsman's diet, bro?
Worn out pair of cowboy boots. We were going up stuff that I'm having to kick bucket steps in. Not like you would snow. Like you're having a post hole basically. But it's super steep, and it's just this detritus, loose, loamy soil that you can't. I mean, you got to post hole in to get up. This dude's going up and down the mountain. He's lighting one cigarette off to the end of another. He's chain smoking. And he never quit talking. He never shut up. He was never out of breath, and he's chain smoking the entire time and just like funneling Mountain Dew. And so it's like that old boy. That's all that boy's ever done his entire life.
Yep,
you know,
right. Efficiency.
So that to me is
He's been inoculating a long time.
dude, yeah, man, like,
Pickled.
I felt like I felt like I was getting cancer from the secondhand smoke. It was not even.
I only know because I'm one of those guys. Because
You can relate. He's
you know,
my
I've
new
got
hero,
14
man.
years in search and rescue,
Yeah.
and I've got the county record back in Cherokee County, smoking the entire way through the.
Man, with this guy, but it's cool to see
Arduous
those people,
wildland
and it's good to
firefighter
know that
fitness
those
test.
guys are out there.
Yeah.
You know, and to be in the presence of those guys that have tremendous skill, but then also that have local knowledge, and we go back to how he was raised. Like, that's all that dude's ever known. That's all that guy's done his entire life. He's got more skill and more experience, especially in that local AO, in that local area, that none of us would have.
So, what did you learn from that? Don't judge a book by its cover.
No, I still judge a book.
belt,
I still judge a book by its cover.
Belt and watch.
I feel like we have to.
But you're willing to admit when you're wrong.
We have to have some discernment.
Discernment, yeah.
And so for
Okay.
me, we have to practice some healthy discernment, because there's still a lot of people I don't want to bring out into the places we go without it becoming a rescue mission. I don't think there's anything wrong with discernment. I don't think there's anything wrong with judgment, but you have to be open to people's capabilities, and we've seen this too, is like we've got members on our own team at times where they may not know we feel like we know their limitations better, but sometimes you have to let life and experience introduce them to their limitations so that we aren't seen as the people that inhibit or I don't want to take that experience away. I think we all need to find our limits. It's not up to me to tell somebody else their limits. The problem is when it's better when it's done in training and not on a live mission.
Right, when it's critical.
When lives are at stake. And so that brings us back to the point of the time to do this and to test your limits is while you're training and willfully exposing yourself to your weaknesses versus ignoring them, and then life throws you a curveball and now you're being exposed in a way that you're in real peril or jeopardy.
Now, there is another aspect of that too, being that you have a SAR background as well, and I'm sure you can testify to this as well. I have been, in search and rescue, we train all the time. And I don't know, I'm sure you can relate to this. You can take somebody who is very intelligent, very smart. They take tests well. They're proficient in all of the disciplines that we practice. And you put them under the right amount of pressure in some kind of situation like a mass casualty. You're working an act of God like a tornado, hurricane, fire, flood situation or something, and it's like the switch goes off and suddenly they're not themselves.
They vapor lock.
They vapor lock on scene, right? Like,
Well,
I'm sure you've seen that.
That's part of stress inoculation. And
Right.
that to me is going back and being willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and like specifically not in areas we all want to avoid. We all want to stay in our strengths. We want to avoid our weaknesses, but the true growth is not in our strength area. It's in bringing up the base level of your weaknesses that makes you better.
Amen.
All right, and we are joined by Mel.
Hi.
My girl, Mel of the Mountains.
Mel of the
Introduce yourself, babe.
Mountains. I'm the buckskin girl. I make buckskins.
Tanning guys' hides every
I
day.
tan guys' hides every chance I get. Yes. Hi.
This is still family friendly.
Yes, of course it is. I have a daughter. I tan her hide too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Y'all said something about me about skinning a cat.
But I agree with what you're saying, because when I worked for Delta Airlines, I was on the emergency response team, and we had a training incident out in the Cohutta Wilderness.
That's my back. That's stomping grounds.
Yeah, and that was a life-changing event for me. We had like a 3-day, 14-mile hike. I had never hiked until that point. And let's just say I came out with an empty pack because all the guys, I was the only girl on the team, all the guys on the team had distributed all of my stuff from my pack on theirs. Like, I literally told them to leave me in the woods to die. I was in such bad shape, like blisters all over my feet, new boots, I didn't know what I was doing.
And people say Georgia doesn't have mountains.
Oh my gosh, the Cohuttas are like vicious
Come to
ones.
Georgia.
We know about
But,
that, yeah.
like,
I'm
I
in
was,
Cohutta all the time.
not only was I embarrassed that I hindered my team, and I thought I was going to be an asset to the team, and I turned out to be complete opposite. I mean, I was there to provide computer and communication support, but part of that job, if a plane went down, was to be able to get to the site. And I was going to hinder the team, so I got off the team because that was just, I didn't want to hinder the team any more than I did in that training exercise. So that was like a rude awakening, and I kind of learned my limits on that, sadly, but I did.
So that kind of brings us up to the unpopular opinion that women don't belong in the outdoors.
Well, women that are prepared for the outdoors.
Is that
I
Yeah.
wanted to talk. I'm a woman,
Right,
and he said unpopular opinions.
Yeah.
And I think in the outdoor community, it's definitely a lot of people think women shouldn't be out there, shouldn't be in the outdoors. I mean, I don't personally believe that.
I think
but
you're
I think
fine
that-
out there as long as you're in a bikini.
Oh, for the gram?
I do make buckskin bikinis, just for the record.
Bikini.
But seriously,
I'm liking this. Keep going.
And please give your email for rebuttal.
Gotta use the right filter.
www.
I mean, I just think it's a hot topic. I don't believe it, but I truly believe a lot of people think the outdoors is only for men.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I think today, like white males, isn't that the hot topic right now? Like
You're the most hated.
We're the
for
most
sure.
hated.
Yeah, you
right.
are.
So
Sadly.
we shouldn't be in the woods.
You should be in the woods or shouldn't be in the
Shouldn't
woods?
be.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Something that I have. I'm not touching.
He's
that
moving
one.
on.
Change that subject, buddy.
I'm going back to the bikini. Not my own.
Thank
but
It's
something,
okay if you
something
do
that
that.
I have tried to find. I have so this is Shane with ESEE. I'll just put it out there.
Were you anonymous until this point?
No. So something that I have tried to find. We don't use ambassadors, but I love to support people on a journey of skill acquisition and making themselves better. And sadly, those women that are actually trying to do that are the ones that get muted and pushed to the bottom of the feed, because all the bodacious ones in the bikinis are the ones that are taking, that get all the volume. And that, to me, is something where, as a community, it would be wise and beneficial for us all to find those women, to embrace those women, and to really put those, most chicks look great in bikinis when they're in their 20s. But times change.
Yes, they do.
But at the same time,
I'm not sure that sounds any better when you put it in
Hold on. I'm going to gut check you here.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's
I'm not
make
sure you
sure
got
we
that
know
one.
where we're going.
what I'm saying is,
You are darn good at digging a hole.
Yeah.
Man.
Need more shovels.
dig the hole, put down the shovel. If you give me enough rope, I think I can tie this all together.
No, but I get what you're saying.
We'll set up a mechanical advantage system and get you out,
What I
babe.
really like is I really wish we could embrace more females that are on that journey, and we see them truly about being better without just the sexuality of things, and it just lessens their message when they do that. So
Yeah.
I'm speaking specifically to females out there that are looking to get noticed. Or stay on your path. If you're trying to do something, be honest with yourself.
genuine.
Don't feel like you have to cheapen yourself or stoop, because there are people out there that are looking to put that woman up on a pedestal and say, this is what we're looking for. This woman's on a journey. She's looking to be better, and she's doing it with her clothes on, not in a
Amen.
way that cheapens. I mean, to me, it just cheapens everything across the board.
You just made the Naked and Afraid ratings drop.
I'm clothed and confident.
I'm okay with that.
Clothing company, yes.
I like that. That was good.
What you're saying, though, like I can say, because, and Mel's heard me say this 100 times, I find in our classes, like if I'm teaching a firearms class, for example, the women, doesn't matter if they're bodacious or not, the women always do better than the men most of the
They're better
time
students.
because of their egos.
Yeah.
They're better students.
They're
and
better
they have better
students,
hand-eye coordination,
better- right.
typically.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's something that we see. Some of our best search and rescue techs are females.
Now, are you talking as far as rescue techs or dog handlers, or what? In what capacity are you?
And like I've got a number of females I am happy to go in the field with, and I don't worry about them being a weak
Like your
link.
ground pounders,
Ground
or
pounder,
Sartec
yeah,
2s,
yeah,
or
whatever.
whatever.
Why are you
they're-
trying to put it in a box?
Simmer down. Heather, simmer down.
He's trying to put it in a box.
I've got
what women are okay? The one that have the dogs? Or the one
We come from similar backgrounds. I'm trying to figure it out.
We're not going to
We'll talk about this later.
Yeah, but I wish our community could do more to really empower and encourage those women to stay on that, to not feel like you have to show more skin to get more views, like stay on your course.
Oh,
like,
amen.
Do what you're doing and stay on that course. And if you're not getting the like, so what? It's gonna be, you're gonna get more out of that journey. And the people that do engage with you are going to be more authentic. And if you can be true to yourself and be more authentic, then it's just better for everybody.
Ultimately, it's your journey. It doesn't matter how many likes you have, how many followers you have. It's your journey.
Yeah. And that goes true. That's across the board,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Well, they may have to question what their motives are for doing it in the first place.
Get in there, Mel.
Well, I was going to say, like, when I left my previous career, which is wedding cake bakery owner and whatever, and found my new world of people in this bushcraft world through Instagram, found Georgia Bushcraft. And the one thing I was shocked about when I first came to my first gathering, and it was mostly male dominated, which I expected it to be. I don't care. I most everything I've done has been male dominated world. But nobody seemed to like have a problem with females coming in and trying to learn this stuff in this group of people. And I was just not used to that. And I so much appreciated it. I didn't see people with a chip on their shoulder and trying to show they were like, badasses or whatever. Like it was, I was just so like welcomed. And
Is
I
that
did
a
not.
buckskin bikini?
Well, it's good to know that the environment here isn't gender specific. It's
Right.
just people learning.
Yeah.
That's it. Just
And
people
that's what it
learning.
should
And that's
be.
what's really great.
To
yeah.
welcome anybody who
Yeah.
really wants to learn and is not here with an agenda to promote, their
20-year-old
lines or
bikini
whatever.
body.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm curious to hear Heather and Mel's hot take on this. Is do you feel slighted, or do you get that in your day-to-day stuff as far as people mansplaining or critiquing you because you're a woman? I'm just
I
curious.
don't get that. I got it more in the engineering field than I do in the bushcraft.
But not in this community.
No, not
Right.
in this community. But this is pretty much my own community. I haven't really ventured out to like other areas of America to have
Yeah,
experience.
I think online people originally thought I was a man because I made outdoor gear. So a lot of people referred to me as sir when they first start talking to me. In-person events, not this
How
specific
could
events.
anybody ever, I'm sorry, I gotta stop you. How could that ever happen?
I get mansplained to a lot
That's true.
in person, not at this particular event, but in other meetups we've gone to. People start talking to me like, and I just smile, just wait for them to stop.
Yeah.
They just assume I know nothing. So yeah, I do get some, mansplaining. That's all I can say. A lot of it. You see it. Todd just laughs. He just
Like I said to you
laughs.
when we had that earlier conversation, this is where I step back and go,
Watch out.
you cross that line.
But,
He's going to get a sewing needle in the eye.
I mean, that's a certain kind of people. That's also the people that show up that are standing there like they're gonna take on the world and tell you how to do everything, and they've got all that gear, and they're so much smarter than not just me, but they're smarter than everybody there.
Yeah.
So I mean, those kind of people do, but
And they're
you
the
got.
first.
Do you think these are the guys that are trying to impress you, though, or do you think that
Oh, God, I
they
don't think that
legitimately
hard
aren't
about
mature
them.
enough to see?
They're not worthy of that
I
much
don't
or
know.
jump into
right?
conclusions.
I'm told I'm
They're-
intimidating, so I don't know.
No, girl, you're not intimidating.
Well, as a couple working on the
Of course,
PNW
I haven't made
Bushcraft,
you mad yet.
and a lot of times when in the outdoor, the first person they talk to is me.
Just all the time.
And I have to sit there and step back and go, no, it's her.
Yeah.
Heather's the one that's doing the company. I mean, she's the one that's running it. And we've seen people get turned off by that. And
That's
literally
their
just
loss, man.
You don't need them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly our
They're
thought
not
too.
your
It's like,
customers.
they're not
Yeah.
our customers,
Yeah.
but I've seen it personally, and I've just been like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
hopefully you get brick falls on your head. On the way.
He's such
I
a good
didn't
husband.
really-
Customer, they were never going to be your customer.
No,
I didn't really realize that. I mean, you just said something that resonated with me. Like, I never really would have thought, especially today, that would still exist, if you will.
Really?
Yeah, like
Oh.
that's kind of almost hard for me. I guess being in our community,
Yeah.
just
I
needs to
don't
join our
see a
community.
lot of that.
Yeah.
Usually we're all really quick to make good friendships. We're all in the same mindset.
Yeah.
We all have the same goals, and we're all growing together, etc. But I guess especially in y'all's business, y'all do run into that,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
I just
try to ignore it. I mean, it doesn't
Hadn't
do
really
any
thought
good.
about it.
Yeah, but when you ask a specific question, you have to sit and think about it. Does it happen?
Right.
Yes, it does.
and it does happen.
And I
does
get
happen.
people that assume that I'm a male because Mel, M-E-L,
Where
of the
is this
mountains.
coming from? I would have never thought
Yeah.
either one of you.
But it doesn't bother me
males,
because I'm
ever.
used. Like I said, I've
Well,
grown
they're
up.
not looking
in-
at us.
Yeah, I don't take
They don't
offense.
assume
at
it by our appearances.
Right.
I know, but what are we talking about? Are you talking on the phone, on the computer,
Email.
on the
Online, talking
Yeah.
online.
online?
Yes,
Oh, like,
online.
Okay, so
Yes.
they're reading the
So
screen.
they're not talking to our voice, so they
Yeah,
don't see our
yeah.
picture.
I've
Does
got
that
like
explain it
Silence
better?
of the Lambs
Yeah.
stuff going on in my head right now. I can't
It's
say it.
spiraling out of
No,
control.
so I just had one quick question, Mikey. What was it what made this topic come to mind that you wanted everybody to talk about it? Did you have something specific?
No, it's nothing specific. It's just I have personal conversations with just about all of you at some point in time or another, and invariably those conversations turn to the business side of bushcraft.
Yeah.
And those always come up with, oh, I've had this customer that said this, or I've had this experience. And this is something that is almost universal among all of us at this table, is that we have all had that one experience where you're like, I just wish people would quit prying with their knives. And Shane was brave enough to go out on Instagram and make that post. And I loved it. I thought it was the best thing ever. And I was
Brave
like,
or dumb?
I thought it was brave.
Depends on who you're talking to.
Hey, if we really want to touch it off, you could say baton or not to baton.
Oh,
That's-
jeez. Don't start. Please don't start.
Yeah, I was going to ask LT anyway.
But I thought this podcast was a great opportunity to get all of us here from broad spectrums of the bushcraft community. I mean, we've got everybody here from the primitive guys to the modern guys to the firearms to the gear producers and sellers. Everybody here is bringing something unique to the table, and I just wanted to get everybody together and giving you an opportunity to speak your mind and just say those things that you don't get to say all the time.
One of the things I think on the other side of the microphone, the guys that are listening, when you say the word unpopular opinions, yes, we do get together as co-op members and business owners and say, hey, I had this situation come up. But there's also a side to that, even though it's unpopular and it makes our job hard and it makes us aggravated sometimes.
Sure.
That you really do. But it also, just like you learning that skill, being a new guy going into bushcraft, even though we've been doing this for X number of years, when we get that email that makes me sit down and rethink, why is this guy or this gal sending me this email? Is there something I need to look at that helps me get better? So even though it might be something that's unpopular per se in my mindset, it also makes me step back and ask questions about what I am doing. Can I get better at that thing, whatever it is? So when you're out there learning the bushcraft thing, instead of when you hit that brick wall and you have that unpopular thing, or you don't like this instructor, you maybe sit back and go, man, what was this guy trying to tell me? What can I learn from that? What can make me better? Because it is a hard thing, and just like talking and batoning knives, I am not a fan. I'll be honest with you. I think there's a place when you should, and there's definitely a place when you should not. And I don't know that everyone can know where that line is.
Do you find that hard? I mean, as a manufacturer, do you find that hard to balance maybe your ethics, your belief system, etc., with trying to change with the times to give your audience what they want, your customers, rather what they want?
Sometimes it's hard to know what they want, and they don't really know what they want as well.
Maybe they don't even know how to use it properly.
You are talking to the guy whose famous line is, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want.
Yes, and he's right about that.
Well, and we're drowned out by, there is no one consensus. It is a shotgun approach where people, like the whole internet just threw up on you.
Right.
And there is no way to, you can't make heads or tails of it. So the short answer is no, we're not going to capitulate to every whim. We have to stay close to our core values. We have to ask ourselves at times, what is it we believe? Mm-hmm. And the clarifying part to that for us, and just like it is with you guys are just, LT Wright and the crew, you guys are always in the community. You're always in the dirt. You're spending time outside, and you're spending time in your environment with your clientele and your customers. That dirt time and that time with those people is clarifying, and it's why we continue to do it. We're a training company with a knife problem. That's what Mikey said about us. Is we were and always have been a training company first, and we make knives, but it's the training company that our products have to pass through for us to know whether or not we're okay with this.
Right.
And so If you just bend to the whim and
right, you don't want to do
then
that.
we lose our identity, we lose ourself, and then you can't do it.
To a certain degree, I think a lot of those people, haters or whatever, it makes us reassess who we are, and it ultimately makes us a better company as a whole. And I tend to welcome those kinds of things because I think it does make a difference. I said earlier, we're not the same knife company that we were in 2013. We're just not.
If you were, there'd be a problem.
Right. And we've grown, we've changed employees here and there, but the product that is coming out the door is 100% better than the product that it used to be before. And it's because of the fact that we are constantly pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of doing.
And some of that's because of the community. And maybe some of those unpopular bushcraft things that you speak of, they get brought up from time to time. It makes us become better at what we do. And even instructors, you're going to get that one student that really made you earn your dollar that day.
Yes.
Right? You're going to have that
There's
person
only one
who's
that's
going to wear you out. But you're going to go home and you're going to go, man, that was hard. But did I explain it to the best of my ability? And that'll make you a better instructor.
Amen.
And some days I honestly wish we could just put Forged in front of our name so we could get away with a lot more stuff. That's another story.
So what's really great about listening to everyone talk is everyone here is talking about constantly learning and improving who they are as people. And I think that's what makes this community special is people are always trying to grow, and they're willing to accept when things go wrong and that they can improve. And I think that's what makes this really different from a lot of groups of people is because this group is like, I don't know everything. I can always learn more, and I can learn from the experiences. So,
and I truly believe that people are attracted to that.
Yeah.
When they see that, they see the connection, they see us as individuals and how we're growing as people. And I think that literally attracts people into the community as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're well over our time now.
Thanks for having us.
But it was a great conversation.
No, it was pretty fun. I definitely enjoyed it. And before we get out of here, I want everybody to plug your stuff. Absolutely. Okay? Because this is what it's all about. It's about community. So give these people that are listening some gear to buy and some places to go and learn what they might want to be interested in and get their learning skills up.
Should I start at my end? All right, you're looking at me. Our company is P&W Bushcraft. You can find us online at pnwbushcraft.com. We make amazing wax canvas gear in our shop in Washington State.
Oh, me.
You're next.
Brian from Woods Monkey, woodsmonkey.com. We make the world's first modular friction folder and some other great gear. We also carry some great stuff from our friends at P&W. So check us out. We also have a fun Instagram page. I try to be a little bit fun with our page. We're the less serious side of the LT Wright family.
He's fluent in chimpanzee.
Demonstration?
I was going to do but now I can't because I'm laughing.
And every time he shows up at the shop, we make him tell a monkey joke.
A really, really bad monkey joke.
Just so.
Well, it's my turn. Yeah. Brandon Currin, also known on the social medias as Currin1776. Company is BattlBox, BATTLBOX. There's no E. We don't know how to spell correctly.
Based right here in Georgia.
Like I said earlier, I wasn't very good in school. So we send out survival gear, outdoor gear, general adventure gear, and things like that to you every single month in a monthly subscription box. We are gear people. We like to push the gear, but we want you to get outdoors and use the gear and have fun, learn skills, and be ready for when the time comes that you should be. And you can find us on all the social medias, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all that. And I like to goof around and have a good time and have fun outdoors and encourage you to do the same. So go to those pages and have a like and laugh and pick on me and get in the comment section just like every freaking body else.
I'm one of those people.
Don't make me use this keyboard on you.
And I'll probably respond in some way. But
or you get an auto response.
Yeah, or auto response. So you can check us out at battlebox.com, BATTLBOX.com.
The E is silent.
No E.
Yeah, I never knew that until now. That's crazy. I've been following you for a long time. I'm Melanie, Mel of the Mountains. That's melofthemountains.com. Also on Instagram and Facebook. And my specialty and passion is teaching people how to make buckskin from deer hides, and also how to make things with buckskins, like dresses, moccasins, whatnot. Yes.
I have a random question.
Yeah.
Is it still called buckskin if it's from a girl deer?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's based on trading for a buck, like dollar.
Yeah, that's where the dollar actually came from, a buck.
I learned
Trading a buck,
There you go. Yeah, stick around. I'll teach you more things.
He's not wearing buckskin bikini.
It sounds better than notes.
Well, that's true. It does. Yes,
Mel,
it does. But
Hey, Mel, can you make it math? Because he's not real good at math.
Can I make what?
Make it math. He's not real good at math.
Oh.
4 out of 5 people say math is hard.
Oh.
I thought it was 5 out of 4.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh.
See, you
You
can't
guys
even
are
get that
killing
right.
me.
I told you.
Killing me. Also, if you want a buckskin bikini, I'm your gal. On to you, JJ.
Yeah, so JJ Morris with Field of Fires, and I'm here not just to promote myself, but we're a co-op, so we're promoting people like Mel of the Mountains. We're promoting Todd Walker with the Survival Sherpa. We're basically a education company that specializes in self-reliance. So you can do everything from tanning someone Todd to bushcraft in the modern sense of the word. So check us out on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff and whatever else is coming out in the future. So hope to see y'all around the campfire soon. You can also go to www.fieldoffires.com to check on our classes and all the stuff that we had coming up. So
Check out his videos. He's very funny, y'all.
no,
Yeah,
not
you
at
are.
all. Not whatsoever.
Or if you're like me, you get stuck in the wazoo ads.
Yes!
Me too, Mikey. Me too.
I watch Dan Bongino, and I get
Do
JJ
your
Wazoo
pants
ads.
look like this?
Every day on Instagram. Your pants look like this?
You too.
I want to look at your pants, JJ. Make some money.
Go to wazoogear.com today.
I'm sorry, Shane.
No, I'm good. I'm just waiting on y'all. Shane with ESEE Knives and Randall's Veteran Training, pretty much the same on the web and on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube.
And be sure to check out Ratsar. They do some amazing things for a lot of people in the Southeast. So if you can.
Ratsar.org. That's our nonprofit.
Cool.
Yep. And I would like to thank Casey for getting us all together down here at Demo Days at Georgia Bushcraft. How can they get a hold of this event, Michael?
Well,
They can't.
Just come to the gatherings.
The Demo Days is an invitation-only event. So
Spring and fall gatherings. Come
Georgia
out.
Bushcraft Spring and Fall Gatherings. GeorgiaBushcraft.com is the best way to check out what he's got going on.
And a large contingent of us will be back here at
Yes.
spring and fall.
And
Yes,
it's a
correct.
life-changing event because that is how I got into all of this, was coming to a Georgia Bushcraft
And that's
event.
how we all
and
got
it has
to be around
created
this
a new
table.
career and a passion for me. So can change your life.
Yes. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for showing up tonight and hanging out this late and, this cold Georgia weather.
Outside this whole time.
We're going to have a great weekend. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And this was great. This was
Thanks for
really
the
a lot of fun.
opportunity. This was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. And thanks to those in Puerto Rico and those other countries that make us number one.
Portugal and the Netherlands.
Okay, and the top 25, please keep listening. We love to be like that. You should see it. Mikey comes into the office and he goes, "We are number 20 in Puerto Rico." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Awesome.
And that's all-time podcast. He's not just Bushcraft.
All time.
Watch out, Joe Rogan.
Bro, we're just excited to be sitting at the adult table. Like,
It's a
make
lot
a
of fun.
deposit or whatever. We can talk after.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Mikey, where can they find our podcast? One more time.
That would be anywhere you can find a podcast.
Right on. Every single time. Every single time. Guys, thank you very much. Stay tuned for episode 32 of The Shack. Have a great day. God bless you.